So, Lewis, it appears that this deal at long last is going to get done. We've been talking about it since draft day. How do you see Julio Jones joining that Titans offense, which obviously already has Ryan Tannehill at the helm, Derrick Henry, and then A.J. Brown, who is openly campaigning for Julio to come to town?
Yeah, I think for their new offensive coordinator, Todd Downing, who replaces Arthur Smith now, who's the head coach of the Falcons, I mean, he's got to be just giddy thinking about kind of the kind of athletes that he has to work with now on the perimeter. When you look at AJ and Julio and they break the huddle and these guys are lining up, you have two of the premier athletes in the NFL, regardless of position. And when you have a guy like AJ Brown, who just 2 years ago averaged, just shy of 21 yards per catch and is just an absolute touchdown machine, and you've seen how he's put together. The guy looks like he's a Olympia-style bodybuilder, and you have him and you pair him with a guy like Julio, who he absolutely reveres. There's nothing that you can't do from a route running standpoint and from an ability to attack the field horizontally and vertically. So with Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and these two now, look, Todd Downing, this new offensive coordinator, look, you're not going to ease into this job. You're going to have a lot of people going, okay, they went out and got one of the premier wide receivers in the game of the past 10, 15 years. What are you going to do with them now? How do you take this offense to the next level? But those are good problems to have.
Yeah, they needed him because Corey Davis goes to the Jets. Jonnu Smith goes to the Pats. So this definitely fills a void and then some. Where does it put Tennessee as the Atlanta Falcons also do something important and send him out of their conference? Now, what does this do to Tennessee in terms of contending in the AFC?
Yeah, I just think it makes them even more explosive on the perimeter as far as their ability to produce chunk plays, which, as you know, is really what the game hinges on at the NFL level. I think their DNA is still going to be one in which, from an offensive standpoint, they're going to be run first. They're going to be run centric. The passing game is going to feast off of play action, and they have ridden that to a lot of success. I think this just now, though, gives them more options in crunch time that they can go to when they actually need to throw the football, and people just can't dial in on A.J. Brown. Look, as good as Corey Davis was, I think we would all agree that Julio Jones is an upgrade over Corey Davis. Mm-hmm. And that now it's going to make defensive coordinators go, okay, look, we have this guy who's 6'5", 245 pounds playing tailback. We have A.J. Brown who looks like DK Metcalf light. We've got Julio Jones, who is just over the past 6-7 years, averaged just under 1,400 yards receiving per year. Yeah, that's a problem. As long as Mike Vrabel can get the defense to really hold up their end of the bargain, rush the passer better, get more turnovers, be more proficient in playing man-to-man coverage, they're right there as far as being able to win the South and hopefully, like they did 2 years ago, contend for a Super Bowl berth like they almost did, 2 years ago against Kansas City.
I like that DK Metcalf light. That brought a smile to my face. Listen, having spent time in the ATL, we have to, talk about them too. And you've been in a front office. You've been on the field. I want to know what you think of this move as they are all in, at least for the time being, on Matt Ryan. Calvin Ridley would become, I guess, the number one receiver at this point. What does this do for the Falcons?
Well, I think, first and foremost, there's no question that it weakens them from a personnel standpoint. There's no way you can get around that. And I'm sure Terry Fontenot, the GM down there in Atlanta, if he had his way, he wouldn't have done this, because you don't get better by losing players like Julio on the field and in particular in the locker room, where he's absolutely, as we all know, revered. This guy's the ultimate pro. But he had to do what he had to do. There's a reason why he's the GM now. It's because salary cap management in conjunction with roster building just wasn't being done at an efficient enough level. And they had to pay the piper at some point as far as all this money coming due on the cap. And when the cap is now contracting, I mean, this all is the perfect storm for them to have to release players like this. And that's just too bad, or trade players like this. And that's unfortunate. But what he has done is what he is doing is trying to set the table both short and long term in terms of, let's get some salary cap relief. Let's continue to build this team out with younger players, while at the same time, hopefully we can still contend with a guy like Matt Ryan, who Arthur Smith, the head coach, still believes has a couple good years left in him. So let's go out and draft Kyle Pitts number 1 overall, turn him into the ultimate weapon like everyone says that he is and like we think he is, and see if we can then build the defense, get better on that side of the ball, and continue to move and progress this, franchise forward. But look, I am sure he is sick to his stomach about having to trade Julio. Who wouldn't be? But it's only fair to Julio too. Look, Julio wants to win. He knows that Atlanta is not really going to contend in the near future, and he is right on the cusp. So, that's the way the NFL goes. And sometimes it's brutal like that.
Yeah, they have really backed themselves into a corner. Now I guess they'll actually be able to sign Kyle Pitts and his fellow rookies. Oh, they'll have the money for that. It's just so crazy that Arthur Smith had to send Julio Jones to his former team.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, Louis Riddick. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, how ironic is that?
I know.
Get the guy who I would have loved to have coached. I mean, that's kind of what.
I know, you haven't even coached a game, and then you got to send one of the great weapons of all time back to your former team. Louis Riddick, as you say, that is the business of football.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.